Oh, yeah, pipe smokers. This is the Paul Gilson YouTube channel, and I am Paul Gilson, aka Paul the Pipe Guy. Yeah. And it's time for a Wednesday night smoke. It's gorgeous outside, about 65 degrees, full sun, just a beautiful day, you know. And grab your favorite pipe, grab your favorite blend, and grab your favorite beverage. Let's have a Wednesday smoke together. It's the 23rd of April, 2025. Oh, yeah, so of course, Paul the Pipe Guy's favorite beverage is a cold bush beer. Sometimes I drink it warm. If I come home, forgot to put some in the fridge, I'll drink the first one warm while the other ones are in the freezer. So cheers, happy Wednesday. So what we're smoking is this oblong, it's an egg-shaped pipe, very tight grain, and it has a very thin top to the bowl, which comes down to be very thick. And there's no burn marks or anything on top of this thin part, which is surprising. I suspect that it's the super tight grain on this bowl, but this Nording is handmade in Denmark. It's vintage. And these pipes don't go too cheap. Vintage Nording, made in Denmark, they're not cheap. Especially, I looked up ones that were like this shape and I was like, whoa. And then I looked back what I paid for it like 4 years ago and I'm like, whoa, I got a great deal. So in that we have some Seattle Pipe Club Plum Pudding Bourbon Barrel Aged, which is, that's 4 years old. It's aged for 4 years. Let's start it on fire. Oh, yeah. That's good. Mm. Oh, this pipe smokes so good. I'm not a clencher. I don't like to put teeth marks and perfect stems that are vintage. I don't know. I have no idea how old this one is. It could be from the 1950s, 60s. It could be from the 1980s. I don't know. There's no way to really date it. I suppose if you were a Nording pipe expert, you'd probably have a good idea. It's got no bowl number on it, No, it's bowl number 2. That's what it says on the bottom, bowl number 2. Well, it doesn't say bowl number, but it just says it has a 2 on the bottom. So can anybody elaborate on this pipe? Anybody have any ideas on that pipe? Nording, made in Denmark. That's all it says, Nording, made in Denmark. And on the bottom, it just has a 2. I don't know. It sure smokes good, though. I'll tell you. Yeah. So I got the quote from my insurance agent for the homeowner's insurance on the new house I bought. well, the new to me house. And she was like, oh, it's $1,018. And she went through the coverages and she's like, well, if the house totally burned to the ground, the replacement cost is $350,000. I was like, what? She's like, yep, that's what it costs to rebuild that house. I'm paying $120 for it. She says, for an extra $65 a year, which is included in the $1,018, because it's on sewer, if that pipe that connects from the house to the sewer at the road ever plugs up or needs to be replaced, they'll cover $10,000 on that. $500 deductible. I was like, well, the house was built in 1910. For $65 a year, I would have to be an idiot not to do that. You know, you run into a problem where you get a root system that goes up through that sewer system to your house, plugs it up. I've seen those operations. They got to dig it up from the road to the house. And it's a long way from the house to the road. It's probably 100 feet from the house to the road. That's a long-ass pipe. You're talking big money. I've seen them crack open those old cast iron pipes, leach onto those, roots and yank them out. They come out they look like a big cigarette, about that big around, of just roots. And I was like, oh no, for $65 a year, I got to have that, so that's all included in the $118. And she's like, and I did a check on how your auto insurance is going to be impacted on moving into the city of Rochester. She says it's $40 a month less. I was like, wait, hold on. So you're telling me instead of $125 a month, it's going to be $85 a month? She's like, yep, I don't know what I did, but it lowered it $40 a month on your auto insurance with full coverage, $500 deductible. I was like, pooh, I love you. And so that's great. And then I got, the $5,000 FHA closing assistance, which is a monstrous help. The Lord He's showing me mercy, grace, and favor, and everything that's happening. And there's some other things that I won't get into. They're complicated financial things I just don't want to get into, where God has shown me grace and bloop, they worked out. And so now I feel like we're about 60% of the way through the process of me actually closing on this house. I've already paid $500 for the appraisal. They took my $2,000 down payment. The house now on Realtor.com is showing pending. My loan is pre-approved, contingent on me getting, the paperwork that they need, which now they have everything that they need so far as paperwork. 2 years W-2s, 4 pay stubs, and my bank statements for the last 3 months. So they have all that, I will just be anxious when I close, I get the keys, I move. I've got a few grand extra, hopefully. as like a little emergency fund. Get moved in, and then the video we're going to do is going to be a celebration like you've never seen. I can't wait for that day. And I'm believing it's going to happen in the next 30 days. It's just, it just seems like it's the right house, the right fit, and everything is going smooth. When I overthink stuff and I have anxiety, so my mind goes a million miles an hour. Well, what if they can't print my bank statements out from my corporate bank account with my name on them, because they're having a problem doing that? Well, they worked it out. They did it. Worried for 3 days over that. Couldn't even eat lunch. My stomach was bothering me. Bad headache. I just need to trust in God and realize everything is going to be all right. Yeah. Everything I've worried about so far, the Lord has got me over those hurdles. And we're just going to keep. Lord doesn't start something unless he's going to finish it. That's the way it works. Yeah, I've graduated to a cigarette. So the Lord doesn't start something unless he's going to finish it, if it's the right thing. And I believed it was when I started this, prayed about it and all that stuff. And all the hurdles that I would sit and worry about, I'd like, Lord, just help me not worry about this stuff. But like I said, I've got mild anxiety. I lost 2 sons. After that, I developed anxiety. And when I get stressed out, it makes my anxiety level not go through the roof, but, my mind is running at a million miles an hour, and I'm overthinking stuff. And what if this happens? What if the washer doesn't fit down into the basement? All of this stuff that I shouldn't be worrying about. And basically, I'm causing myself a lot of extra stress. I'm sure you've all been there before. Cheers. Just keep your prayers up. Keep praying for Paul Gilson, that this loan is going to go all the way through to closing, nice and smooth. Close, and I get in there. We are going to have a celebration, video like you've never seen ever before. Cheers, by the way. When I got that $5,000 closing cost assistance, my best friend, who's my banker, he's doing the mortgage, works for a bank, calls me up. He's like, Paulie, you won't believe it. And I was like, he was like almost in tears over the phone. I was like, what's wrong? Dude, you qualify for $5,000 in closing assistance. They're going to give you $5,000 towards your closing costs. When I thought I was going to have to come up with like 17 grand, he's like, you might only have to come up with like $8,000, buddy. It's like, oh, I love the sound of that. Let's keep rolling, I saw another figure up there, $9,500, which said something else. So who knows what it's going to be? They might cover all my closing costs and down. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just trusting in the man upstairs, because everything won't be all right. I'm under a lot of stress. I've got dates that I got to close and be out of here. Which were very fair dates that I was given. very fair time limit. I want to close and be out of here before that date. I just, can't wait to get into my house. My mom, she's always had my back. I remember, but if I was wrong, I was in big trouble. Remember when I was, tell you a little funny story. When I was probably in about second or third grade, something like that, there was this kid on the school bus. And he had a squirt gun every day, and he was squirting people, all the kids on the bus. And so I asked him to stop several times. I don't like to get squirted with water. Nobody else on the bus did. The bus driver was retired. He was an old guy. I complained to him. I says, his last name was Miller. Mr. Miller, can you stop this kid from squirting everybody with a squirt gun? So, I thought about it, and I went out in my dad's shop. Those old school oilers, they stand about that high, about that big around. They were painted either gold or silver. They had a little nozzle that came out of them. Sometimes you could bend the nozzle and stuff, and they had like a trigger on them. Well, if you squeeze that trigger really hard, it would shoot 30 feet. It would shoot oil 30 feet. So I brought one of those on the bus that one day. That kid started up, asked him to stop. I lambasted that kid. There was oil all over the ceiling of the bus, oil all over I emptied that can out. It was probably a third of a quart of oil, just squirted like a squirt gun everywhere. Bus driver flipped out. He lost it. His head exploded. He's like, Paulie, what are you doing? I says, well, you keep squirting us. I told you about that. Figured I'd stop myself because you didn't. Pulls over, radios into the school. They didn't have cell phones, right? The radio reached, wherever he needed to. And they had a little school bus. They came and picked me up and took me home. I was not allowed to go into school until we had the principal meeting. So my mother goes in with me, and I told her the whole story about what happened. And, the bus driver was all yelling at me all as I'm leaving the bus to get in the little bus to go back home. And I got to clean this whole mess up myself. And I was like, I didn't say nothing. My mom's like, well, why'd you get dropped off this morning from the little bus? You just got picked up by the big bus. And I told her the whole story, and she's like, oh, okay. Told her how I'd talked to the kid, talked to the driver of the bus many times. She called the school up. I'm coming down there right now with my son. She lit that. I shouldn't say she lit him up. She filleted him. My mother filleted this guy. She was very calm. Well, my son told this child to stop with the squirt gun several times. He told the bus driver several times. I don't really approve what he did with the oil, but, it's on the bus driver. And she had my back. I didn't get suspended or any of that stuff. I was in school the next day. And that kid didn't bring no squirt gun on the bus ever again. So, yeah, my mom's always had my back. If I was right, if she felt I was right. If I was wrong, you better tell Mom about it before she gets a call from the school. You better go home and say, hey, Mom, here's what happened and I was wrong. And then she would just let the school punish me. which would that hardly any ever happened. I don't actually. I was never suspended from school. So, yeah, another time, this was in high school, I came up with a brilliant idea. We would take a M80 firecracker, which is a big firecracker, and we were at lunch and we got the biggest apple we could find, bought it, kind of dug out a hole, put the M80 in it. We stood at the end of the hall and waited for the bell to ring. Bell rings, all the high school students, I think it was in 10th grade, all the high school students come out in the hall. I got my one buddy to hold the apple. It was my idea, but I got them to do it. My one buddy to hold the apple, the other dude lit it, and then rolled it down the hall. The bell rings, the apple's getting kicked around, and you see it explode. Boom! Instant applesauce all over everybody. And this is when girls had the big hairspray hair. And so the three of us are laughing. We start turning around, and those two guys ran. And I started just to slowly walk away. And I hear this teacher's high heels. She's chasing us down. She's like, young man, stop. And I just keep walking, acting like nothing happened. Young man, stop. And I figured I'm going to get grabbed by the collar anytime. She ran right past me. Her name was Mrs. Perez. I don't know how she could do the 100-yard dash that fast. She was just a little petite Hispanic woman that just unbelievably fast with high heels on. How could anybody do that? My buddies were in track. She caught them, grabbed them by their collars, dragged them back to the office. So I go out, during my next class for a bathroom break, and I'm kind of peeking in the office, and they're both kind of sitting there, next to each other in a chair, waiting to talk to the principal. Well, they both got suspended for a week, and the one mother, a staunch German lady, her son tells her the whole story, and she calls my mom up. They knew each other. It was a small town. We all knew each other. And she's like, well, we think your son Paul ought to turn himself in because our sons are in trouble. And my mother's response was, if my son was smart enough not to get caught, he wouldn't be like your sons. He's not going to turn himself in. And that was the end of the conversation. She laughed about it. And she had my back. I told her about it. Or maybe I didn't, but then she got the call from my buddy's mom, and they all wanted me to turn myself in. Good old Ma. No, if he was smart enough not to get caught, shouldn't have to turn himself in. She had my back. Anyways, I'm Paul the Pipe Guy. Hope you had a great smoke together with me tonight. Happy Wednesday. Over, but not out. I'm not out of here yet, but I will be soon. I can't wait. Yeah. Keep praying.